Hello and welcome to Vault Holocron. I'm Jonathan and today I've got a what if for you on the idea of what if Qui-Gon survived the Phantom Menace. So as you all know, in the original story, Qui-Gon sadly died in a duel against Darth Maul, being stabbed in the torso. However, that's not what happens in this turn of events. Anyway, let's get into this what if. This fanfic starts in the battle between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Maul, which goes the same as before until we reach the shields. Maul, like before, stands behind them, leaving Qui-Gon patiently waiting. But this time, instead of rushing in to fight, Qui-Gon makes sure to let Obi-Wan catch up, allowing them the advantage in numbers. Both of the Jedi then make it to Maul, where they send strikes after strikes at Maul, who skillfully deflects their swings. Maul then kicks Kenobi away to fight Qui-Gon alone for a few seconds, but it's no use, with Obi-Wan easily getting back into the battle. Together the Jedi fight off Maul, trying to capture him for Jedi interrogation. However, once Maul is heavily injured and realises what they plan to do with him, he jumps down the reactor shaft, protecting the Sith. Qui-Gon and Kenobi believe he is dead due to his wounds requiring a Bacta tank and the length of the fall, and so don't search for his body. Due to his survival, Qui-Gon, against the Council's wishes, trains Anakin, and at the same time Kenobi is promoted to Jedi Knight. From this point on, Anakin's life is dramatically different, with Qui-Gon realising Anakin's susceptibility to attachment, accepting it, and taking on a father-like role, much like Palpatine wished to. But Jin had no ill intentions like Palpatine did. Over the years, Qui-Gon raises Anakin up to be a powerful Jedi who outshines the other Padawans, despite his late start. Much like his master, Anakin is quite rebellious, taking on a less conventional approach to being a Jedi, trusting heavily in the Force. Attack of the Clones also goes quite differently, with Qui-Gon now following the mysterious bounty hunter, trying to assassinate Padme. Qui-Gon ends up in the same position as Obi-Wan did, being captured on Geonosis and reuniting with his former master, Dooku. Dooku then tells him of the Sith Lord in control of the Senate, and Qui-Gon, knowing him far better than Kenobi ever did, trusts Dooku. Qui-Gon knew that Dooku, while having deserted the Jedi Order, was still honest in this statement, knowing of the corruption that had formed in the Jedi Order. Qui-Gon did know that Dooku was withholding information, but he also knew that Dooku held an awful lot of knowledge, which would be useful to the Jedi Order. However, Qui-Gon refuses to join his former master, trusting only in the light side of the Force. Due to this, Dooku sends him to the Petranaki arena alongside Anakin and Padme, who had like before come to save Qui-Gon. From here, the battle goes the same as before, with many Jedi dying, but the clones coming in and saving them in the end. Once the Jedi return to the Jedi Temple, they discuss their findings and the battle, with Yoda proclaiming,
"Begun. The Clone War has."
However, Dooku's words are eating away at Qui-Gon, who's now extra concerned about rooting out any corruption. Qui-Gon challenges Yoda, telling him that for the Jedi, there should be no war. This viewpoint clashes with those around him, especially Windu, who believes that they need to defend the Republic, who allows them a place in the universe. Qui-Gon then reveals what Dooku had told him, suggesting that they root out all evil within before fighting anyone else. Many Jedi hate this accusation, blind to their own ignorance, but Yoda, having the final say, orders a precautionary check of the Senate because of just how certain Qui-Gon is that there was some truth in Dooku's words. Yoda knows that the Senate would not be appreciative of this check, thinking that the Jedi no longer trust them. Due to this, Jin is tasked with finding some key suspects who they would subtly spy on. This was to be a top secret operation, as if anyone found out that the Jedi were trusting the words of a deserter Jedi, then the whole order would be put into question. While Qui-Gon starts this operation, the Jedi still go to war alongside the clones, with Anakin becoming a general with a new Padawan, Ahsoka. The Clone Wars goes on for a while, as it did in the normal timeline, with Qui-Gon not fighting in it, instead only following the will of the Force and searching the Senate when off of missions. Qui-Gon researches the ancient Sith, and he gets very suspicious of Palpatine. But with Palpatine having so much power and influence, and the lack of concrete evidence, Qui-Gon is unable to act on these suspicions. Qui-Gon also fears that Palpatine is starting to figure him out, due to the annoyance he seemed to be showing against Jin. He knew that his whole operation would be over, and the Sith would never be found if Sheev truly knew what was going on, and he may even get expelled from the Order. However, Qui-Gon, after a while, notices how close Anakin is to Palpatine, and realises that Palpatine did view him as a threat, but not due to his spying, but his father role for Anakin. Anakin often went to Qui-Gon when in trouble, and Palpatine hated this with every bone in his body. Anakin still cared about and trusted Sheev, but Qui-Gon's word was final. That's when the pieces started to come together for Jin, who is certain that Palpatine is manipulating Anakin. He brings these findings to the Council, but they don't agree that his findings are sufficient. This won't stop Qui-Gon though, who is ready to expose the last of the Sith himself, but he is interrupted. Maul is revealed to have somehow survived his injuries, and now he is furious, wishing for deadly revenge against Qui-Gon and Kenobi. Together they fly out to the Zabrak brothers, with Qui-Gon taking on Maul and Kenobi taking on Savage. The four of them get into fierce battle, but the Night Brother duo can't take on both of them for long, retreating and moving into Maul's long-term plan of taking over Mandalore. While Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fly back to Coruscant, the former master and apprentice discuss Jin's investigation, with Kenobi agreeing that Palpatine isn't to be trusted, but not jumping to the conclusion that he is a Sith Lord. Instead believing that, like many non-Jedi, the Chancellor was simply jealous and caught up in his emotions. Qui-Gon after this chooses not to confront Palpatine, waiting for more concrete evidence, as the Jedi wished for. Later in the Clone Wars, Maul reveals himself again, this time leading Mandalore. Despite Maul's presence preventing Jin from figuring out Palpatine last time, this time it does the opposite, as after Kenobi and Qui-Gon confront Maul and escape back to the temple, Qui-Gon notices that Palpatine had gone on an unscheduled visit off-world. Palpatine had gone to take on Maul, believing that with his authority, no one would know that he'd even left Coruscant, especially as his line of work was so secret. However, Jin knew instantly that it was no coincidence that after Palpatine's little trip, Maul had mysteriously been defeated. With this evidence, Qui-Gon knows the Jedi Council would be confident enough to arrest Palpatine and put him on trial, and so he rushes to find Master Yoda. As he does though, he's stabbed in the back by a crimson blade. Palpatine stands over his dying body, cackling. Now the Jedi Order would never know. On top of this, Palpatine arranged for Dooku to attack the temple too, hiding all evidence of his role in the murder. When he hears the news, Anakin is shook up terribly by his old master's death, swearing to take revenge on Dooku. He rushes to the only other person he feels he could trust to look up to, Palpatine. Although it is early, Palpatine knows he must act fast, telling Anakin the story of his master, Plagueis, offering that they work together. Anakin deeply dwells on this story, wishing for no one he cares about to die like his old master did. Anakin is tempted by this thread of hope before him, his only opportunity to discover if this story is true. He is ready to accept Palpatine's offer, blinded by his grief for Qui-Gon and his trust for Palpatine. He heads back for Palpatine's office, but as he does, Kenobi approaches him, warning of Palpatine's manipulative nature and filling him in on what Qui-Gon had shared with him. In case you're wondering, Anakin wasn't a master and therefore wasn't allowed to know of the operation. Qui-Gon wasn't usually one to follow every rule, but this time he knew it would be best that as few people know as possible. Anakin is more suspicious of Palpatine still now, but he's still too desperate to search for the possibility of the powers Palpatine had spoken of, and so he assures Obi-Wan that he'd be careful and heads to Palpatine's office. As he approaches the door, he hears a voice he recognizes, one that holds so much meaning and happiness, his old master's. But how was Qui-Gon speaking to him? A bright blue light appeared before his eyes, blinding him for a second. He couldn't believe what he saw. His dead friend was stood in front of him. "Anakin, it's time you knew the truth. Ever since the start of the Clone Wars, I've been spying on the Supreme Chancellor." Anakin questions what he sees before him. Is this actually Qui-Gon, or merely an illusion? "I understand this is hard to hear, but it was him. Palpatine killed me, not Dooku." Anakin is fully alert now, looking over the evidence in his head over and over. Qui-Gon then reveals that he'd been training to perform a powerful ability, the ability to become a Force Ghost, and that eventually Anakin could too learn this ability. Anakin assures Qui-Gon that he was ready for Palpatine to betray him, but despite that, he could never have prepared himself for how dark the truth actually was. Palpatine was never his friend, and never planned on being his friend. He was merely a tool. Anakin then gathers a group of Jedi Masters, as Qui-Gon had wished to do for some time now. Anakin, Kenobi, Windu, Yoda, and some other Masters enter Palpatine's office to arrest Palpatine. Qui-Gon then appears in the center of the Jedi, ordering Palpatine that he is under arrest in the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic. The battle soon begins, with Palpatine spinning through the ghostly body of Qui-Gon. The Jedi proceed to attack the Sith Lord, a few of the weaker Masters falling victim to his deadly blade. Yoda, Windu, Anakin and Kenobi together hold off Palpatine as a team, until Windu, with one smooth stroke, slices off his head. Anakin isn't so supportive of this decision. Windu is later put on trial by the Republic in a study into the killing of the Supreme Chancellor, but after sufficient evidence of Palpatine's Sith ways, he is set free. From this point on, Qui-Gon spends his time dropping into various Jedi in the temple to assist them, and especially Anakin, who now has a new pair of twins. Padme also didn't die in childbirth. Qui-Gon knew of this, having also known of Anakin's secret relationship with Padme for some time, despite Anakin's attempts to be secretive. Ginny's understanding of this bond Anakin has formed, believing that attachments are not entirely bad, and knowing that Anakin was inevitably going to get attached to people, having been late in starting his training all those years ago, after being saved from the harsh desert sands of Tatooine. Anyway, that's it for this What If. I really hope you enjoyed. Feel free to share your ideas of how the story would have gone, and we hope to see you later at Vault Holocron.